Today we're joined by somebody who is kind of connected to the Bob Lazar story. He actually used to work with Lazar at a company called Fairchild. Could you tell us a little bit for people who don't understand what Fairchild actually was?
Yeah, there are two Fairchilds. One is I think they work on jet engines or make jet engines. It's not that Fairchild. This Fairchild its primary business is semiconductors. They
Hmm.
were they were competitors of TI. They made CMOS and TTL logic chips. They made analog chips, um, and they were owned by a French oil company named Schlumberger. And this division, which was Zincom, which is not spelled with a Z, it starts with an X, Xincom, made memory IC test systems. And this machine would test them before they went into whatever product you built. Okay. That's what Zincom did.
Hmm. Did they
Yeah.
have contracts with the government or
No,
specific?
no, 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 no,
No?
no, no, no. No. I mean, they may have sold testers to the government, but this was not a military house as far as standards or production practices. No, not at all.
Okay. And Lazar himself was working as a kind of quality control engineer, was that
No,
right?
no.
Oh,
I
okay.
was a senior quality engineer. He was a test engineer, test tech slash engineer. If you want me to explain,
Yes, please.
okay, where we fit in the food chain. So, um, my friend and I used to work at a company named Pertec. He was an inspector for receiving inspection. I was a quality engineer. We both left Pertec the same day and went to Fairchild together. And I became a senior quality engineer, and Ron was a highly skilled electrical test person in receiving inspection. What that means is our systems were very big. They had a ton of parts in them, and I would test and inspect those parts before they went into the stock room. Okay, to make sure that there weren't component level failures, or at worst case, seriously reduce the amount of rework that would be required in manufacturing due to component failure. Okay, I shared an office with another guy. He was another senior quality guy. His job was past the stock room. So he dealt with all the quality issues in manufacturing, and he worked more closely with Bob Lazar. Bob Lazar was a system level test engineer. His job would be to write test procedures for the printed circuit board level assembly before they went in the big systems, and to deal with rejects, electrical rejects that they tested, find out what went wrong, troubleshoot it, and then hand it to the test rework people, of which one of them was Bob Lazar's wife. So there's
Oh,
the detail
yeah.
there. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay. And what time period was this exactly?
Eh, 82, 83, somewhere
Right.
along those lines. Yeah.
Mhm. And Fairchild is no longer with us, right?
Yeah, well, the Fairchild is, but Fairchild's income is not.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And this was in the city called Canoga Park. It's now a FedEx facility. It was at the corner of Van Owen and Owens Mouth, I believe. If you, Lewis, want to do a Google, street search, you'll
Mm.
find the FedEx facility. It was that building.
Mm.
It's about a 30,000 square foot manufacturing building. Those typical tilt up things, those industrial 1 story buildings, that kind of thing.
Yep.
After I left, the company moved to Simi Valley. That's across one little range of hills. Lazar lived in Simi Valley, and they moved into like a 1 million square foot facility, and that's what brought them down. Before, half the company, the engineering half, used to be up in San Jose, and they brought everyone together, and they couldn't afford the rent, basically, and that's what brought Fairchild's income down.
Right.
Yeah.
And when did you first hear about Lazar's alien story?
Well, this is the serendipitous way I found this out. I knew who Bob Lazar was. I mean, I'm not, aren't we all fascinated with the idea of extraterrestrial life? I mean, it's been in our wheelhouse for since it started, right? So I had a passing interest. If I saw an article that seemed to be in a credited source, I would read it. And I knew of this story. I didn't connect him yet to the guy I worked with.
Mm-hmm.
About 10 years ago, I read, I was kind of groping around the internet and I found a newspaper article about him that showed the picture of that little like Honda Civic sedan he had with the rocket engine in it. I went, holy shit. Bob Lazar is that kid from Fairchild. Because I read it, he had a hydrogen powered Camaro in that article and that rocket engine he put in the other car. And then I looked at the kid and I said, oh, okay, that's him. You know, he used to have this ragtag long hair and those teardrop glasses. And when I saw the later pictures, he still had the glasses, although he'd become a man now and his, hair was shorter. And that's how I made it. I didn't know the whole time that this was Bob Lazar was the guy I worked with.
Had you somebody else who worked at Fairchild was Gary F. says that
Did
Lazar
that
told him that he had been involved in laser research afterwards or selling technology for drones or jet engines to the military.
he may have, I don't know.
Okay, but he never told you that.
No, Fosberg and he were close buddies. What I was made to understand later is that Fosberg and Lazar maintained their friendship throughout the years, which it still might exist today.
But you haven't spoken to Bob at all.
No. About 8 years ago, he has that little hydrogen conversion company, or at least he did. And I wrote that email address and I said, why don't you come clean about your education? Because it's not true. And I actually got a reply back from a woman saying that he has devolved himself from that part of his life. Although since then, there's been a movie about him. He's been on Joe Rogan. Basically, he's full of crap. Okay.
He's a hydrogen conversion company. Do you mean United Nuclear?
I don't know. I saw it. He used to have a little company where you could buy a kit to convert your car to hydrogen. Okay. And he had a video experiment. I'm sure you've seen
Mm-hmm.
the high school chemistry teachers experiment where you separate hydrogen to water and fuel, right? So he kind of did that experiment in a little video.
Mm-hmm.
When I knew him, his wife and he would drive in together in sort of a reddish brown colored Camaro. And on the side of it, he had printed lettering that said runs powered by hydrogen or something to that effect. I took it for face value. I never had reason to doubt that. And then one time he did a demo of the rocket engine in the parking lot, which was honestly awesome. It was so friggin' loud. And so I can contest the fact that, yes, in fact, he had a rocket engine in his car. The Camaro said powered by hydrogen. Okay, it may have been, don't know. I would assume since he went in that industry later that it was. Don't get me wrong. Was a very bright kid, but he was not a mature kid for his years. We all thought it was pretty odd that he married a woman that was over twice his age. And he had a very almost narcissistic air about him that, even at the time, I remember Pat and I rolling our eyes. It's like, whatever, kid, whatever. And he was immature and cliquey, and we weren't in his clique. Okay.
Yes.
Louis, we were professionals. We had a job. Clique? Are you kidding me? You know what I mean? This isn't high school.
Can you imagine the government ever hiring somebody like him in any circumstances to like research something top secret?
Well, this is conjecture on my part, of course, right? Listen, he has sort of on the spectrum intelligence. And what I mean is, I think as in a society, we're very cruel to these people and we call them, techno geeks and they're weird pencil necks. Well, they're probably on the spectrum somewhere, right? And these people tend to be highly intelligent. And he was an intelligent guy, but I didn't work with him enough to know test his chops. It
Mm.
would be interesting to me. Okay, there's two ways to look at it. One, he definitely wasn't in that field when I knew him. So there's a strike against him. But in that he was a contract employee, they might have done it. Okay, let's say you're Raytheon and you're gonna work on a certain radar that goes in the nose of a fighter. And you work out the entire budget and you determine that I'm gonna need 7 engineers that we don't have and 4 technicians. They would hire those people on a short-term basis to work on that project. And then when the project was done, all those people are gone. The benefit to the company is I don't have to pay their health insurance. I pay an hourly wage and that's it. And I have no obligation to keep them. And I can fire them immediately. The benefit to the employee is because you don't get paid health insurance, you don't have any benefits, you get about 3 times as much as you would if you work full time. I actually, prior to Fairchild, used to do contract labor and myself in an engineering position, and they used to call it job shopping. I was a job shopper. Okay, so the hit to him is sometimes they will take risks on people that might not have the qualifications that are perfect in a contract position, knowing if they don't cut the mustard, they're out of here tomorrow.
Hmm.
Okay. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
But still, I mean, we're talking about alien tech. You would, uh,
Yeah, no, I don't think so, honestly.
yeah.
And I think I may have mentioned this before. I'm highly suspicious of any job shopper contract guy getting anywhere near that if it was there. I
Mm.
would assume, and I think rightfully, that if they had intact alien technology, then in order to see it, you would have to have stars on your lapel. These would be Air Force guys. These wouldn't be contract employees. The Air Force has no shortage of technicians and engineers.
Yeah.
Okay, it just doesn't. To me, it's that doesn't work for me. It doesn't make sense. I mean, you can apply, and there are many contract employees who work what they call Q clearance. Have you ever heard of that term?
Yes. Isn't
Yeah,
that
and you get,
Department of
and
Energy?
it's a pain in the ass. They literally will send, men in black to your next door neighbors to ask what's this guy like. They check every record. It would be excruciating now with the internet, but before, they would check everything you wrote down. If was it true, and they would check out things if they found that you had character flaws that they would be concerned that you could not keep a fucking secret, and you get work in government. Okay, but see, the work in government, especially at a technical level, everything is done to what they call mill standards. Okay, you work in a regular industrial commercial place, and you have to solder a resistor. You solder a resistor with a mill standard place, anything with military, anything with aerospace. I was a commercial trained engineer. And by the way, I came about electronics in a very serendipitous way, but I became very good at the workmanship standards and engineering in a commercial environment. A military house wouldn't touch me with a 20-foot pole.
You've mentioned that Lazar, I mean, his academic claims are complete nonsense as well.
It doesn't follow. It just doesn't follow chronologically.
Right.
Uh, you can't get out of, okay, these are the, he says Caltech and Stanford, right?
MIT.
Oh, give me a break, dude. MIT is even worse. MIT and Caltech are the two most technical schools in the country. They're not going to let you graduate in 2 years instead of 4. I mean, they wouldn't let Stephen Hawking do that. And it just doesn't follow. You can't get those degrees in the amount of time it had been since I worked for them until 1988. And he went to Pierce College at night, which of the community colleges in Los Angeles, that is the lowest on the totem pole. They used to call it a high school with ashtrays.
Hmm.
It was terrible. We have a couple of really good community colleges, 3 of them in LA. Pierce is not one of them. That just doesn't it doesn't make it's not true. One detail maybe I should share. He was kind of standoffish with me, and frankly, I
Mhm.
couldn't give a crap. But the day he showed his jet engine, I mean, excuse me, his rocket engine in that little Japanese sedan, I was genuinely fascinated. And he had another, I don't know what you call the combustion chamber, then it squeezes, it's compression, and there's the exhaust vent, right? And I was fascinated. I asked him some questions, and he was very engaging with me. Okay, and that was the first and last time I think I really had a conversation where I didn't feel like he was being all judgy. Okay, and I was really impressed that he had constructed the combustion chamber and the compression chamber and that, and it was very impressive. Okay, and it definitely worked. I mean, it was in the middle of the day. You couldn't see any exhaust coming out. It wasn't powerful enough to burn the oxygen like that. But man, was it you have no, it was the loudest thing you could imagine hearing.
Mhm.
And I remember he told me or us, the people who are huddling around him, that you couldn't get rolling from a dead stop. But if you look on the freeway doing, at the time, the speed limit was 55 in California. If you're doing 55 in the freeway, you'd be at 130 in about 2 seconds. And
Yes.
he said, I don't know, it's being braggadocious that he used to taunt the CHPs in Simi Valley at night and kick it in and just disappear on the horizon. I find that very hard to believe. Simi Valley is a smaller city than Merced, and I don't think you would ever have done that. I
Yeah.
mean, purposely in front of a cop.
And by the way, the rocket engines, or the jet engines, I think they were using. Uh, did he have rocket engines and jet engines, or just?
I definitely did not hear a jet engine. This was definitely a rocket engine.
Okay, it might have been propane it was burning.
Okay. Well, then I wonder you need a fuel and an oxidant.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was
Right,
solid or not. I don't
right.
know if it was it definitely didn't have an accelerator. That mofo turned on, screamed like a banshee, and then suddenly puked out. You
Yes.
know, yeah. And at the time, I thought he was crazy. I mean, I said that thing's going to explode. You know, yeah. It was really weird. He had license plate and he had it on a spring-loaded like gate, and I guess he'd push a lever in his front and it would release the springs and it would pop open like friggin' Batman and expose this nozzle. And then I left. Where did I go? I went to work for a company called Tandon Corporation. That was the hot shit company in the LA everyone in manufacturing wanted to work and I got my chance and I took it. And then I never heard from Bob Lazar again.
Until the alien story. But you do believe that we probably are not alone in the universe.
No, I think it'd be ridiculous to assume that we are. I have
Mhm.
two. I think there's two possibilities. Either they are extraterrestrial and they have discovered some wormholes, call it what you want, some element of the universe that are as inconceivable to us as electricity was before we discovered that, and they're able to traverse these massive distances, and or they're actually us, and they have the ability to go back in time. Okay, and why I think that is all these stories they hang around nuclear silos. Why would an alien civilization give a fuck if we blow each other up? The stories that I have heard, they tend to disable those silos. So the conclusion would be they're trying to stop us. Maybe they're not trying to stop us. Maybe they're making sure we blow each other up when we're supposed to. That if we don't do it when it happened in their reality changes. That's what I was thinking. But what do I know? I mean, your guess is as good as mine. Do you think there is?
I think that there is in the universe. There's
Yeah,
life. I think there's life out there in the universe. I don't know what its nature is.
right.
Um, I would guess that there's probably microbial life for sure, but
All over the place, I would
yeah,
assume. Yeah.
wherever it can evolve, it has evolved, I think.
But Louis, don't you find it odd that they it just happened the randomness of evolution and how evolution works, the
Hmm.
randomness of them to be bipedal and have arms and legs and a head and little eyes. I mean,
Yeah, right.
that's to me That's what makes me think they're just evolved humans. Okay.
or at least projections of human um stories, and
Right, right,
we're kind of projecting ourselves onto what we think aliens should be like.
right. Which is typical of the arrogance of humans since the beginning dawn of time, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
But I wouldn't I mean, I'm pretty skeptical about UFO stories per se. I
sure,
try to find kind of mundane explanations and see
sure.
what they could be explaining what's going on.
Yeah,
But I mean, it is fascinating to speculate about these, if they were coming here, what they would be like. And yeah, as you say, maybe they could be conceivably time travelers or something else.
yeah. Because there's no resource that we have that isn't already in abundance in the universe. They don't need to
yeah,
invade us for our water. Why
right,
would they
right.
want to enslave us?
So like when Lazar says that he doesn't hang out with UFO people, I mean, he gets all his ideas from UFO people.
Okay, and he's also a celebrity, and he okay. There's another documentary that has nothing to do with UFOs, and I forget. It's a fascinating and sad story about a guy who used to design vehicles of death for prisons. First, he designed electric chairs, and then he designed the injection systems. And he was convinced that the Holocaust didn't exist. And he went out to Auschwitz and scratched the surface of the gas chambers and did sampling, like forensic chemical analysis. So there's no cyanide. It's a myth. Of course, cyanide after 50 years would have dissolved. It would. It does. It's not absorbent, and the concrete wasn't absorbent enough. And his whole family, his wife divorced him. His kids wouldn't have anything to do with him. He was drawn to this because in that world he became a white nationalist and Holocaust deniers. He was suddenly a celebrity, and I think
Right.
that Bob suffered the same thing.
Could be, yeah. Because
Yeah.
you say like on the one hand that Lazar is kind of withdrawn, keeps to himself and
Yes, he is.
aloof, but on the other hand, he kind of does seek out this approval or this sort of clout chasing behavior.
Sure, the notoriety and the celebrity. That's what it is. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Has anyone ever talked to the government, or were
Uh,
they unable to confirm or deny that he had the clearance?
well, people have made inquiries to the Navy because Lazar says that he was hired by the Department of Naval he said it was the Office of no, sorry. He said it was the Department of Naval Intelligence, but there's actually no such department at that level of the government. It's called the
Well,
Office
there's
of
another
Intelligence.
interesting.
So
Yeah.
the Navy disconfirmed that. Lanel also Lazar himself wrote a letter to Lanel um requesting information about his own employment, and they said that he'd only ever worked there as like a contractor for Kirk Meyer,
Okay.
and not as like an official scientist or anything like that. He was just a tech
Right.
working at the Meson section of Lanol, which is like a particle accelerator, I think.
Okay. Okay.
But Lazar was doing some like electrical engineering, like electrical technician or maintenance type stuff there. Nobody else in the government has really. The government has not gone out of its way to say this is fake because I think they just don't give enough of a crap about
They
Lazar.
really don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
They don't. Yeah.
This is what people don't understand is that when the government doesn't deny something, it doesn't mean that it's true. It just means that they don't necessarily care about it
Right. Right. Right.
because they've got better things to do. But
Right.
on the other hand, it does like lead to the perception sometimes that the government is hiding something, uh,
Sure.
and then that can like feed into public distrust of the government.
Sure. And which is what on 11 now? I mean, and some of it is righteous, but
Yeah.
that's the problem with conspiratorial beliefs. Then you don't trust anything, and we find ourselves in the political dogma that we are in.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Listen, conspiracy. There are some conspiracies that are highly questionable, and I would list among them who in the hell shot JFK, right? And did Hitler really kill himself? That doesn't make the world flat. That doesn't make all conspiracies true. It's an item by item thing. And you've looked into Area 51, and now the veil has been taken off of Area 51, and
Yes.
they had a lot of work. Okay. And now they're working on the sixth generation fighter, and they worked on all the stealth stuff and U-2 and the SR-71.
Hmm.
And those are by themselves humongous programs. And also the first jet
Yeah,
fighter,
yeah,
right? During
yeah.
the Second World War,
Hmm.
when we found that they had the Messerschmitt with the jet engines that we had, I forgot the name of the fighter. Did you hear that great story that when they used to wheel it out, they would hang a fake propeller up the front?
Yeah, yeah.
I love that story. I
Hmm.
fucking love that story. My music partner's father was a test pilot and was the test pilot for that program.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
he only came
one of them.
came clean about it after, like well after, right?
Right.
Because you don't talk about that stuff even to your family, like when you're in it.
No, you can't. Listen, these guys take patriotism to a new level
Yeah.
because they understand that the guy at the soda shop might be a Russian spy. Okay. I mean,
Hmm.
the Russians paid their spies a lot better than we did. So that's why they got the bomb so quickly. That's
Yeah.
why half their bombers and their space shuttle is identical to ours. They had better spies. Okay. So, yeah, these guys, there was another show that talked about, I believe what they called the Goldsteins, the married couple that leaked the bomb.
Oh,
And they
Rosenberg's.
Rosenbergs, and they interviewed this one guy, typical ex-military patriot, and the off camera, the guy says, "What do you think should have happened to those people?" And he said they should have been re-enlisted and summarily executed. He was red in the face. He was like, "That's
Yeah,
the one
I've
thing you
watched that.
don't
Mhm.
do.
Yep.
You don't violate your goddamn Q clearance." You know, and I don't know. So
I
that's
was
my
actually I watched that documentary I think a few days ago because I've been sort of preparing for the Oppenheimer movie, getting some background and stuff. And I
okay.
was watching a documentary about Soviet spies in the Manhattan Project.
Okay, that was it. And you saw that guy, and you saw how
Yeah,
serious he's.
he said I think it was like it wasn't a Rosenberg because it was somebody else who was closer to the actual inner sanctum of the Manhattan Project.
Okay,
Yeah, this gentleman said that that guy should have been re-enlisted and shot.
and he suddenly became an officer again, didn't he? He was dead fucking serious.
Yes,
And
yes.
there's a high level of respect for me anyway with a person with that conviction. These guys
Yep,
don't mess around, and it's
yep.
not because they're afraid to get Putined. They are, they were officers, and they never forget. Right? It's their
Right,
duty. Yeah,
right.
yeah.
And
So
Lazar, basically, you know, when people say that he's like this really honest guy,
I don't think so. But go. I
Lazar
mean,
is he's
yeah,
basically admitting that he wants you to believe that he was spilling American like top secrets to the world, like
right.
so, like blabbermouth in other words.
Have you watched the documentary on the Brazilian case?
The Vagina case,
Yeah, I don't know. It's called Point of Contact, I believe.
but it's about a UFO crash.
Yeah, in Brazil.
Yeah, yeah.
I was fascinated by that.
Well, that was from 1996, I believe.
No, no, this just came out. Hold on.
Oh, okay. No, no, I mean like the actual case.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen that documentary, you should.
Hmm.
And this documentary maker is not a George Knapp. He has nothing to prove, but
Yeah.
he sees enough sincerity and has enough proof and evidence and testimony to make a very compelling case. But those things aren't stored at Area 51. All that shit goes, I think, to March Air Force Base, right? It's somewhere like that.
Well, Wright Patterson is the
Right,
other.
Patterson. That's it. That's it. Yeah.
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 I mean, that's like the original, I think, where the legend kind of started about where the US government was storing these craft
Right.
at a specific hangar, Hangar 8, I think.
Right.
Patterson. And
Right.
yeah, you saw a lot of mentions of that in 1970s documentaries about UFOs, where people were intimating that the government had recovered some craft. So like the story about recoveries, well predates Lazar's story. And that's another
Right.
sort
Right.
of trope that he picks up. But
Well,
do you kind of credit, like you said, the Brazil case? Do you think what other cases do you think might have something going for them?
the Phoenix Lights.
Phoenix
Uh,
Lights?
yeah, those definitely weren't flares. Flares aren't that controlled,
No, but
and they
they could appear to be hovering from a distance because like if they're on parachutes, they could take a long time to, descend.
but they don't appear as little lights. They um, illuminate the area around it enough that you see the smoke, the burning, the material combusting. It leaves smoke. There's always a smoke trail. That's the other one. Benny and or the Hill story. Who knows? There's another documentary I watched. A little community in Maine or Massachusetts, um, and that seems incredible. And I very few times do I doubt that people don't believe what it is they think they saw. Okay, but I would say definitely the one in Brazil seems very interesting, but I would say definitely that there was something in the Phoenix Lights. It's just too many people.
The problem with as I see it, with these mass sightings is that people can start talking to each other and then they kind of create the testimony becomes contaminated and then people's memories become other people's memories. So like they talk to each
Sure,
other. The elements of the
sure,
story sort of get blended together. Scientists have shown that like memory is a very spotty thing. It's not like a camera, like you're taking a photo. It's more like a story
sure.
that evolves. And when people recall it, they could be misremembering, they could be embellishing as well. We at least have to be careful when we're
Right.
told testimony, even if we believe, as I think, and you agree that most people are sincere when they're telling their stories.
Sure.
We're not saying that they're lying or anything. We're just saying that memory is like this fairly unreliable thing that we have to be wary of.
Sure. And we're not talking about the guys that go to the little alien and,
Right.
the freaks that say, I went to the next galaxy and yeah, but yeah, yeah. The thing that's fascinating about TikToks and all this stuff
Yep.
is if it, and let's say it's true, I've got to give prudence to those stories. The energy source that they have discovered that we have no idea exists. That's the amazing thing. Okay. I mean, for years and years and years and years, we never thought we could have laser weapons because the plane would have to be so big it couldn't get off the ground because of the power supply required, right?
Yeah.
To to generate a laser of such a heat and intensity that it would actually do structural damage to metals. And it's just fascinating to me of the energy source has been that is in play to have this craft do what it does. But it doesn't surprise me because 20 years before electricity, we had no idea. It, Ben Franklin, they used to call it electrical fluid when they were playing with lightning and static electricity. We didn't have a clue. And look how the world has changed since the discovery of electricity, right? Can you imagine what Archimedes, who probably designed the Antikythera mechanism, if what he would have done with electricity, and where we would have been as a species and a society had we discovered it 2,000 years ago, right? So I am not surprised at all that there may be other forces of nature that we don't even know exist yet that they have mastered that immense amount of energy capable of getting those crafts to do what they're doing.
Yes.
Because if you're gonna beat gravity through magnetism, that's one hell of a power supply. Okay, right? I mean,
Hmm.
that's a tough one. We are all slaves to gravity.
In the 50s and 60s and 70s, the government did actually invest some theoretical, like into some theoretical work into the possible applications of gravity.
Okay, okay.
But they didn't actually, there's no evidence that they actually ever got anything tangible out of it.
Listen, the government has a lot of money, and so does the CIA. And I've known people that worked at Rand Corporation, and that's all they do is sit there and think up shit,
Mm-hmm.
right? Highly intelligent people that develop weapons and speculate about just things, and they've made some inroads. What is that when you get neodymium magnets and you can get them to levitate over a track, but
Yeah.
it takes a huge power supply. You've seen this thing where they have it floating around a Mobius strip.
Right.
But that isn't going from 10,000 feet to 60,000 feet in the blink of an eye. That's a whole different realm, right?
Assuming
Yeah.
that what the Tic Tac, I mean that the Tic Tacs were actually accurately described.
Right. Right. Because the thing's flying by him. It's whizzing by him.
Yeah. I mean there's
Yeah.
we can still think of mundane explanations to explain some of the aspects of the Tic Tacs, such as the pilot was misinterpreting parallax, or that the radar was like being jammed by some electronic warfare system, and so like it was
Well,
getting tricked and things like that. But
you touched upon a very valid point. These machines are highly specialized, and they're built to detect weaponry, current weaponry. Their sensors aren't necessarily the what scientists would pick to do the
right.
same kind. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. What is fascinating though is how it's defying physics. And there's no sonic boom.
Anything
We
else? Uh-huh.
No, I don't think we'll find out in our lifetime. The way things are going, I think we're all going to vaporize from a nuclear war before we find out the answer to this. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you guys, do you have any military up in Merced in your area?
Let me think. No, actually.
Okay. I live 1 block away from the One Wilshire building, which is the largest internet server in the United States. They're going to light one off right over me. Okay. So I won't even know it happened. All right, my friend.
Hmm. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Peter.
All right. Bye
Sounds great.
bye.
Thank you, Peter. Bye.